Have you recently bought a Cricut and you just haven't taken it out of the box? Or did someone gift you one and you just feel a little bit intimidated about where to get started? Then this Cricut tutorial is for you, because this is going to be a Cricut video that is for the basic beginner. And it's going to teach you a lot of the things that I had to learn myself over the last year. My name is Salisa and I have an Etsy shop, which I've used the Cricut machine in order to elevate my sales. However, it was a strong learning curve because I knew nothing about the machine. So in this video, I'm going to teach you some of the things that I got past in just using it, some of the hurdles that I overcame, and some of the ways to work around it so that your journey will be a little bit smoother. And if that sounds like something that interests you, seeing some basic tips and tricks about the Cricut machine, then let's get right into the video. In just a minute, I'm going to turn you around and I'll actually show you from above down onto my desk and explain some things that I learned about the Cricut. Also teach you via computer what the exact cut settings mean and what some of the actual functions of the Cricut design space are all about. So there are two pieces to this puzzle that you have to understand. But we can do it. I know you can do it, because if I can learn and teach myself in a little less than a month, I'm sure you can learn and teach yourself along the way. And this tutorial might be the gentle nudge that you need in order to get started. All right, let's move over to talking hands down about the actual Cricut machine. All right, so in using the Cricut, there are two specific components, one being the actual machine, which is the Cricut machine, and the other being a software so that you can filter your jobs that you want to do to the machine. Now, you can either use a standard computer, which is what I'll be doing today, or you can even use your cell phone, because Cricut Design Space is the name of the application. It does have an app that you can use through your phone and send your projects directly to the Cricut through the app. Now, I'm not sure if the app is integrated within the Google space, like Google Play, but I know for sure it is in iOS, and I've used it before. It is easy to use, but I do prefer using it on a computer. It's just larger and easier for me to see the designs that I'm creating, but it is an available option. As far as my Cricut, I have the Explorer Air 2, the Cricut Explorer Air 2, and this might be 1 or 2 models back. I know it is still selling. I'll link all of the different pieces that I'm talking about down in the description, so you can click on those if you'd like to purchase as well. This machine is a little more affordable, but it works wonderfully. There's actually nothing wrong with it, and I have used it for quite some time, and I am enjoying it 100%. Did have a friend who purchased the newer one, which I think was the Maker 3, and she had some difficulties doing the print then cut function, and it is a known problem. So I would say before you actually purchase a newer machine, make sure you do your due diligence and research to make sure they're not having any issues. She returned hers and ended up purchasing an Explorer Air 2 and is enjoying it. So I know this machine is very well rated and I've been loving using it. That's just my personal opinion. All right, now to get started, there are a few buttons on the machine and I want to go ahead and show you all of those. Okay, so to get started, there is the power button here, which we're going to go ahead and push. There's also this double arrow, which is what you would use to feed your mat into the machine. This is the button that you tell the machine to cut. And if you have any issues with your cut, you can pause the cut process by pushing this button here. It's just like a pause on a record player. This dial here is about the types of materials that you can use to cut. You also can put it to custom, and within Design Space you can pick your own custom material to cut, but this tells the machine how deep it should actually cut through whatever material it's cutting based on the material you had. Of course, it would cut fabric a lot deeper than it would paper. So that's what that whole knob is about. Here comes your first tip. The machine cannot sense what type of material you're actually putting into it. The only way it knows is from the dial that you dial up what type of material you're going to feed for the basic cut. So let's say that 2 days ago you you cut some cardstock, and that is going to be a deeper cut than vinyl. On the knob, as you go further to the right clockwise, you're getting deeper and deeper. Well, if you leave it on cardstock and now you want to cut some vinyl, it's going to cut the vinyl too deep. And when that happens, you won't be able to separate your vinyl from the backing because it's going to cut through the backing and you won't be able to weed it out properly. And I hope that makes sense. You also can use this to your advantage though, because for instance, whenever my blades are a little bit duller, sometimes I'll dial it to the next deepest cut. So instead of cutting on vinyl, I might cut on vinyl plus. It will cut it a little deeper, it won't cut through the backing, and thus my project will be okay. So there are ways that you can use that dial and the dial setting to kind of guesstimate where your actual depth of cut should be. But don't forget, change the dial back closest to the product that you're using, or else the whole cut will be wasted. And I've done it several times before. On this side, it has an open button, and we push that in order to open up the machine so we can get started. In order to close the machine, you can simply lift this latch and close this. It clicks, and now it's turned off. And if we wanted to open it again, we would simply push this, and that will allow it to open again. To talk about is the actual blade that's within the machine. And it's super simple in order to change if ever you had to change your blade. I'm gonna zoom in so you can see. The blade is housed within this unit right here, and you simply just unhook it here, and you can take the whole housing unit out like this. The blade is down here. Let me see if it'll focus. There, that's the blade. I'm pushing this button, and that's the blade there. So you can change out the blade by simply pushing here. Whenever I've changed mine, I do use a pair of tweezers in order to pull this out. And then I would put a new blade in, and I'm gonna show you how I change it right now. So you basically push this and then get tweezers and pull this out. This is the blade, okay? Cricut does sell replacement blades that look like this, and they have this rubber piece on the back. So you simply would just take the rubber piece off, and that will expose the blade. And then on the housing unit, you would push down and then put this, not the blade side, but the other side up into here, like that. And it will automatically magnetically attract, and then you just let it go. And that will allow your machine to have a new blade. Since it's not time for a replacement, I'm gonna put the blade back in that I already had. And there it is there. Now, in order to put it back into the machine, you just drop it down in here and lock. And that's how you change your blade. Now, there are other housing units that are included in your machine, which is like this one. This one is for deep cut blades. And if you have a deep cut blade, which I don't have one right here, but I've used them before, then you can change the housing unit to a deep cut blade, and you would just take this out and drop this one in with the deep cut blade that you purchase. This is a replacement pack for fine point blades, which is typically what I use, but you can use a deep cut blade if you like. And some thicker projects I have before, but once it ran out, I realized I can just change the settings on a fine cut blade and cut just the same. All right, so that's everything as far as the blades. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is the mats. The mats do come with a layer on top because they are sticky. This is a standard grip mat. They do have a light grip, which is the color blue of my machine. And then they have a heavy grip, I think it is called, and it's a purple mat. And that one I've never used. I have used the light grip before, but my favorite is the standard grip. A 2-pack of these are very affordable, and I'll leave a link down in the description just in case you're interested in getting some more mats. Some of the other tools that we'll be using today will be this scraper tool, which you don't have to have something like this, but this smooths out. I use it as a smoothing tool, and I'm not even sure if that's the right way to use it, but it works well for me. I already showed you the Cricut tweezers that I have, and I have a piece of vinyl stuck on here. Tip number 2 is this. You don't have to have certain tools in order to do certain things. I will say I bought a pack of Cricut tools, which was the scraper, some weeding tools that you'll see later, the tweezers, and all of those I've trialed in different ways. Find the tool that works best for you. I now have moved from using the tweezers to using the weeding tool, Any of it can work when it goes to you picking up the vinyl. You decide what works best for you, and you don't have to have a set tool in order to do anything. I know there's a roller that people use in order to roll their vinyl down. I've never owned one, and my vinyl has come out fine. So that's the tip. Use the products that work best for you, and you can trial a few of them out to see if they work before purchasing even more products. All right, now that we have a basic understanding of the machine, I also wanted to talk a little bit more about the mats. The mats does have that plastic layer on top in order to keep lint and other products from sticking to it. Any little thing will stick to that mat, and over time, just through usage, it will begin to get more dirty. And if it does, it loses its stickiness. So there is a way that you can actually get the stickiness on your mat to return, and it's just by cleaning them. And if you want a cleaning tutorial on the mats, then let me know, and I can bring that along with some other tips that go a little bit more in depth than today's video. But for now, we had a brand new mat with the plastic piece, and so we have to make sure when we get done with our cut to cover the mat again as soon as you get done using it. That's so important to help with the longevity of the mat and to help you not to have to clean it so often. All right. Now that we got through all the mats, all the replacement of the blades, and the machine, it's time for us to head over into Cricut Design Space and learn a little bit more about the program, and so you can kind of basically understand it. Remember, this is the basic Cricut tutorial. So we're gonna get not too far in depth, but I do have some other videos that I'll be linking with deeper projects or more in-depth projects that you can watch if that's something that will interest you. But for the basic beginner, we're gonna talk about how to navigate through Cricut Design Space. So let's get started with that. All right, when you first open up Cricut Design Space, it does have quite a bit of icons down here on the side that you can go to. The easiest path I find is to go right here to Canvas, and I'm just gonna keep it very basic. When you go to Canvas, there are quite a bit of tools down the left-hand side of the screen. First, you can start a new template. If let's say you began designing and you now wanna create something new, it will ask you if you wanna save the canvas that you're working on and then start a new one. There's also templates that are here within Cricut Design Space that you can use and customize those for your own project. There's projects that it will show you that you can create, and it'll tell you exactly how you can work on creating some of these different types of projects. There's shapes that you can use, which will be like circles, hearts, and you can drop those onto your canvas, change the color, and maybe add some text on top of it, or layer it within a design. There are certain images that you can use, and those images you can have different color vinyls and cut it so that you'll be able to lay it out. There's also the text feature if you just wanted to write some words. And then lastly, there's the monogram feature. If you wanted to monogram something, you can do it in different styles and different patterns. You would just change the initials and change the style. All right, but for right now, I wanted to work on text just to show you some basic features across the top of the screen. And this way you'll know exactly how to do a basic cut. When I click the word text, a text box dropped in here, and you can just simply move it anywhere on the screen. Also can double click, and that will allow you to change the text, and we're gonna change it to say test. Okay, so this is gonna be our test cut on a piece of vinyl. The other thing that I can do is highlight this and Command C, Command V to copy and paste it. You also can, if I didn't wanna do it that way, click on the word and go over here to the duplicate, and it will duplicate it. Now I can duplicate it here, and then let's say I wanted to change the color vinyl that I was gonna cut this second one in. So I wanted this one to be black and this one to be pink or red or whatever other color. The system understands that these are two different color vinyls, so it would ask me to load the mat first for this object and then load the mat secondly for this one. And this is just for a basic cut. But since we're not gonna do that, I'm gonna delete that one. So that's about basic cut. Also, you can use this arrange feature. So let me duplicate it again. You have them like this and you wanted them to be in a straight line, you could select this text and then hold down the shift key and select that text and go up to align. And then you can say align vertically, center vertically, and it will put them in the straight line. Now these two, I do want to group together so I can move them as a whole. So I shift and select it both, and I'm going to click this group button. That will allow me to move them where we want. Now, another way to group, let's ungroup them by clicking this button. Another way to group is when you want to select text, it's here on the sidebar. So you can hold down the Shift key and hit the first one and the second one. And now it's selected both of our text, and we'll hit group. Now this whole piece can be moved as one because it's in a group. Okay, so I'm going to cut this. Now I do want you to pay attention to the markings across the top, the rulers down the front and side. This is going to be a 1 inch by 4 inch piece of vinyl. So it's within the 1 inch line, and then it's within 4 inches long. So wide 1 inch, length 4 inches, and that can be used just with a scrap piece of vinyl. So make sure whenever you're using your vinyl, if you have extra, cut it off before you weed out your projects so you can use the extra for pieces like this when you only need one word to be cut. The next thing we could do is create an offset whenever you want to have a shadow cast behind your words. You can, make it smaller like this. And if that offset is there, let me put the offset back on. If it's something like this and you hit apply, now it will have a border behind your words, and that will cause a different set of, see, I can move it. Until I put the two together, I would be able to move it. So I would click this group and offset and group these two together, and now it's all one. It will ask for 2 different color vinyls. So it's asking for the gray vinyl and then the black. Now it doesn't have to be gray and black in real life. You can put blue vinyl for the top and white for the background. It just knows you need 2 separate pieces of vinyl in order to make this happen. But I'm gonna ungroup it by pushing this button, and I'm going to highlight offset and hit delete. So I can delete the offset because we're not gonna cut any offsets today. All right, last I wanted to show you was you can warp your text. So let's say you wanted to make them curved. You would click this and now it would curve it. You could curve one at a time. I'm gonna hit the back button because we're not gonna curve. Lastly, I wanted to show you if you wanted to resize your text and you want it to be bigger, you can just get to these double arrows on the corner. So this one allows you to rotate when you have the circle arrow. And if you have the double arrow, or the straight line arrow, then it allows you to make it bigger or smaller. That's something that you can do up here within these widths as well. The width and the height, you can size it there. You also can rotate here. So you can say you want this to be 90-degree rotation or 0. Okay, so I'm gonna shrink this back down because the size of vinyl I have is gonna be 1 inch. So I'm gonna put it up here. This sizing guide also tells you, so this is 3.37 long by 0.82. So we know 1 inch piece of vinyl will do it with 4 inches in length. All right. So now that we have that together, the last things I want to talk about is these down here. If ever you have multiple layers and you wanted to only cut the outside, then you would flatten an image. And I'll go into that more in depth if you guys want a secondary video about flatten. Attach means when you attach these objects, it's going to cut it exactly how it is on your canvas. Otherwise, it might rearrange it to save as much of the vinyl as it can. But I'm going to go ahead and attach so it'll print exactly like this. And then combine. I don't think I've ever actually welded anything together or sliced anything at this point. So I'm not going to elaborate on those just yet. But if you need more information on that, I can look it up and bring another tutorial to you guys. All right, so we have now attached the 2 pieces together by grouping them. And then we also, we have now attached the pieces at the bottom and we group them. So this is one cut it's going to make. And I'm going to hit make so that it can head over to our project. Now it will ask, do I want to save this project for future? And if you do save it, it will be listed up above here under my stuff. So you can come back and cut this exact layout multiple times. But this is just a test, so I'm not going to save it. All right, now it shows you the actual mat. It's saying it has this mat. I need a piece of vinyl that's at least 1 by 4, which I have on a scrap piece of vinyl. I'll show you in a minute. It's going to be loaded on the mat. The mat material is 12 by 12 inches. For my mat, it is. You can put the mirror text on if you wanted that, and that will make it backwards, but I don't want that. I just want it to be cut straight, and I'm going to hit continue. Now at this point, you need to make sure that your Cricut is turned on, and mine is finding mine via Bluetooth. You can hard connect it with a USB cord, but for mine, I have it set to Bluetooth because I work on 2 different desks typically. And so now I have it set on Vinyl Plus. This type of vinyl that I'm using, it does come with an instruction. I'll show you that in a minute. That'll tell you the settings, but since my blade is a little bit dull, I've been cutting quite a bit. I put it up 1 notch to Vinyl Plus in order to make it cut a little deeper. All right, it's saying there's no tool required in clamp A, clamp B, which is where I showed you where you put the blade, load a fine point blade. We have that, and now we're gonna load the mat. So let's go ahead and head over and do that. All right, this is my scrap piece of vinyl that I have left over from a project that I was doing. Laying down your piece of vinyl, you wanna make sure that it's all the way to the top. So I'm gonna relay this one down. It should be flush against the lines that are here, the grid, because the Cricut is expecting that that's where the vinyl will be and that's where it's going to start its cuts. So let me go ahead and lay this down. You can use a smoothing tool, but I find that using my hands works fine when I have a good strong hold on the mat. And now in order to load it, we're going to put it into both sides under the grooves and hold it flush against the rollers and then press this button to load. And then cut. Now on the screen, Cricut is showing exactly how much percentage it's cutting. So I'll show you guys a symbol of that so you can tell when it's just about done. Now that it says it's 100%, I'm going to click done on the screen. And it now ejected my project from the Cricut machine and the light has went out. So the only thing on is the power light that's there. I now have my test cuts. And again, I would cut this piece of vinyl here. So let me get a scissor. All right, I would cut this piece of vinyl here and save it because there might be another project that I can use it on. And this is the actual project that we need. You're gonna need the piece of vinyl that you have, a piece of transfer tape, which this is just another piece that I cut, and something to affix the label to. I'm gonna put it on a piece of paper just so we have an example. Also, I do use this type transfer tape. I'll link the roll below. I got it from Amazon. It's quite a bit of transfer tape, seeing that you can use it over and over. I've had this roll for over a year and it continues to work perfectly, and I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks on using it. All right, you will need a weeding tool. I'm using this Cricut weeding tool. As you can see, I've already used it quite a bit. But anyway, you need that, and then you're going to need your piece of vinyl. Now, I typically get started in a corner somewhere by just picking up what's there, like the excess, something in the excess, and then I softly pull so that it can weed around the letters. Now, you noticed it picked up the letter T, so I put it back down and push that down. We're gonna weed around it again. Also, it left behind some of the E, so I'm gonna pick that up. Also, these parts need to be weeded out because this is the top part of the E. So I just stick my little tool within there and pick that up. Some people prefer to use the tweezers. You can use those as well to pick it up. And that's it. This is all scrap, and this is the actual vinyl that's cut out that we need. I'm going to use this transfer tape. So in order to use that, you just take a piece off. Now, another tip for this transfer tape is very sticky. If I put it on top of these words and then go to transfer it, it's gonna stay stuck to the transfer tape because it is so sticky. So sometimes just place it in your hand to get some oils on it will help it to not stick so well to the vinyl that it won't allow the transfer. So I have used that. All right, now it has picked up some of the oils from my hand. I lay it here and I use the scraper. And that's just for a fresh piece of transfer tape. I do use transfer tapes over and over. And when I use them on, look, it's so strong, it's pulling up the paper. When I use them on other projects, after a while, the tape gets older and it's easier to take. Now I'm going to backwards pull off the transfer. I'm going to backwards pull off the piece of paper from the vinyl. And now I'm left with just the vinyl on the transfer tape. The most important thing is to lay it straight. I use the smoothing tool by Cricut in order to make sure it affixes. And this might stick, this transfer tape might pull up some of the paper. Let's see. And then we just pull it off. I usually like the slow and low method, so pull it low like that. And now we have the vinyl on whatever project this is. This could be a cup, this could be an envelope, this could be whatever you want it to be. But that's how we actually would use the transfer tape and getting the projects cut. All right, you guys, so that is the end of this basic Cricut tutorial. I started this video when it was light outside. It's now dark, and I have to go to one of my daughter's performances, but I hope you got something of value out of this video, especially if nothing else, to pull that Cricut out and get started, because it's not until you start to use it will you start to master it, and it takes practice. All right, I think that's everything for this video. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, put this one single emoji right here letting me know that you made it. Also, don't forget to like this video because it helps it to be suggested to other people who might need this information. And then if you're looking for more in-depth projects, things that I've created, and you can find those videos linked in the eye in the sky for a playlist. All right, you guys, I think that's everything for today. I'll talk to y'all soon. Take care.